Hey guys, welcome to the video. This video is about Madden 21 and 21 things we would love to see in franchise mode. I'm not even talking about gameplay. I'm talking about simple fixes that would change everybody's life who's part of a multi-person user league, right? Things that the game has kind of missed the point on, things that the game kind of errors with, that you would love your commissioner to be able to put you in a position where everything is balanced and successful. So these are the 21 things we'd love to see in franchise mode for Madden 21. In the daily franchise that I'm a part of, we have 32 users. 96% of our games get played. We advance every single day, right? What ends up happening though is every once in a while somebody can't play. How do we allot those 4% of wins to the games that never happened? And what ends up happening is right now we have the ability to fair sim or force win. It's not always that clear cut, right? In Madden 21, it would be awesome if as a commissioner you had a tool to set a force win, set a fair sim, which is 50-50, or the force win be 100%. But what if you look at that conversation and you were able to put a percentage on it, whether it be 90, 80, 70, 60% chance of winning based on the efforts made to play that game. And while we're on the subject, may as well hammer this out. In a game that is simulated, why not have it that there's a boundary as to how that person's stats have been historically and create stats based on that likelihood? So for example, I'm usually top 3 defense. I'm usually 25th in offense. When I get a fair sim, when I get a forced win, there's times where I throw for 500 yards and give up 400 yards. I will never throw 500 yards in one game if my life depended on it. I'm also not going to give up 400 yards very likely. So why not look at that person's averages and create some sort of stats that resemble what that person has done throughout their history? It would be worthwhile. Next topic's going to get a little controversial. And I'm not here to say what's good and what's bad, but give us the option to pick what's good and bad. I'm talking about injuries. Right now you can toggle between on and off. But what I'm thinking about is, do you really ever want to have your injuries on during preseason? Probably not. So have us the option to turn them off during preseason always. Yes, you can toggle back and forth, but raise your hand if you've never made that mistake. All your hands are down. Somebody's made that mistake. Now, with that being said, also in season, is it fair for somebody to get a player injured during a forced win in a game that they were not a part of? How about in a forced loss? Should all games that are simmed have no injuries on? Now, in our league, we have injuries on all the time, except for preseason. And the reason being, you get stats during the season and with no risk of an injury, that's not very fair either. But you guys can debate that, but give us the option. Are injuries on or off? And is it on during sim, off during sim? And you don't have to toggle back and forth constantly. Also, give us the ability to edit or remove an injury. And you might be thinking, what, you cheaters, remove an injury? Who would do that and why? Well, here's the deal. I'll give you a story. There's this kid named Billy, really nice kid. Everything he does, very ethical. His trading practices, showing up for games, never taking forced wins for no reason. And what ended up happening to him was he played a game, there was like 3 minutes left in the game and it desynced. So instead of playing the whole game back or whatever the case is, they said it even finished, I can't remember. But I had to set a forced win and they simmed it. And in that sim, Aaron Donald got hurt for 8 weeks. Now, is that really fair to Billy? Not at all, right? He played the game. So in that case there, let's say his player got hurt and everybody talks about it within the league. Is it fair to remove that injury from Aaron Donald? In that case, I feel so. So give us the power to remove an injury or edit an injury because there are times where that makes sense. Within any league, there's a group of behaviors that make a league really successful or bring a league down. And sometimes you want to reinforce positively the good things that make a league awesome. And one of the things that I think would be a great prize is your scouting points. So perhaps have the ability for administrators to be able to allot how many scouting points a team gets based on they're showing up for games and so on. So not everybody gets the same amount of scouting points, and it's based on something tied to what the league really cares about. So give us the ability to change the scouting points. This could go as far as to change the ability to develop a player, right? So the amount of XP a person gets, maybe you don't get XP in simmed games where you had a forced loss, but you do in a forced win or in a user game. Things of that nature to promote people playing their games, doing the right thing. Now, on the other end of things, let's say somebody's doing something that the league finds detrimental to the league or negative towards, behaviors that you want to see happen within the league. Then you should be able to suspend players, right? I know right now people will suspend players by taking away attributes and then restoring them in some cases so the player's kind of unusable for a period of time. But just be able to set, this player got suspended for X many weeks, just the same way someone gets injured for this many weeks, but you get to create it based on an action. Now, EA did some fantastic stuff this year with limiting how you cut people, what your roster sizes can be. So in Madden 19, there was some insane roster dumps that would just be such a headache for a commissioner. Madden 20, that's not really so much a thing anymore. That being said, there should be tools in place for a commissioner to correct a roster very easily. Rather than having to go through trades and see if they get accepted and so on, a commissioner should be able to grab a player and change what team he plays for. Grab a draft pick and decide which team that goes to. That way you're not depending on people accepting and trades of that nature. You could literally correct the roster just by dragging and dropping and putting things in its correct place. Give us the ability to freeze free agent signings, right? At the beginning of every league, it's always an issue. One guy gets in there, signs all the good free agents and so on. And so just have the commissioner have the ability to freeze signings, freeze rosters, that nobody could be dropped, nobody could be signed until a certain point where everybody's in and we're ready to go. Madden 21, it is time for improved transaction logging. Right now, all it says is so-and-so was edited. Doesn't tell you what happened to them, but they were edited. So have it that you can maybe click on that player in terms of in the transaction log and see exactly what happened. Did an attribute get touched? Did a dev trait get touched? Did a contract get touched? That way you can see exactly what went on. Now, of course, there are things like a commissioner is the only one who can change certain things, right? But it would be great for it to be apparent for everybody. So for me, I don't care about changing my equipment. I edit 3 guys a year. And when I edit them, it's to go from corner to safety. And when I do it, I video it and it's on YouTube, right? So people know exactly what's going on. But if you're a commissioner who loves to play with all the equipment and so on, that's a nightmare, right? So just have it that there's transparency. Why not have a list of everything got touched, in transactions that's very detailed? Give us the ability to decide which position changes are even allowed, right? Many leagues will say you cannot take a wide receiver and put him here, or take this player and do that with them. So have it that within your league, what is acceptable. Have settings as to which position changes are locked, which ones are acceptable, and then that way there's no policing to do. It's just not available to you if the league has found it to be something they don't want to have happen. Now, when it comes to drafts, when it comes to scouting, there's so many tools that should be available while we're scouting that just don't exist, right? We run through the list of 450 players, we click on 3 of their highest attributes, and that's that. Now, you should be able to sort based on attributes you care about, the way that you can sort it based on position, and so on. Now, that being said, one of the things that I find just insane, let's say you've scouted 80 players and now you want to make your draft board. You literally have to go into each player to see were they early first, middle first, later half of the first. It should be, when it says round 1, give us a little early, give us a little mid, give us a little late, so we don't have to go right into every single card when making our draft order. Furthermore, how about create a button that is auto order based on who you've scouted, so that it just goes top to bottom, and you can then play with, I really think this guy's a high first more than this guy, but at the end of the day, give us an auto order button so that we can make our draft board quite easily. To get to the end of the season, it's always crazy how in playoffs, the draft board's just gone, and it doesn't come back until you're into free agency. And so guys are like, I want to make a draft board, but I don't have access to it. Never take away the draft board. Now, I agree. There are periods in real life where scouting doesn't take place, so don't give new scouting points. But the draft board should never be unavailable. You should be able to reorder your draft board at any point. Also, when you get to scouting the combine, and now you're in the free agency 2, 3, and 4, have it that you can look into the combine specifically and sort based on those numbers. So you don't have to go into each guy to look at what was this time. You can go to combine results and sort by position, sort by result in whichever event you think is most important, and just be able to get that information far more readily than the way they have it set up now. Now let's talk about rosters. A lot of people like to upload the most current roster, especially after season, right? Things happen, you want to keep it up to date. Now, things that you should be able to do in that custom roster is be able to add abilities, take away abilities, choose which abilities that person gets, not just change their dev trait, but be able to change which abilities they get. You should be able to choose in your league what abilities are available and not. Maybe your league hates Most. Maybe your league hates Escape Artist. If you guys decide as a collective we don't want that in, there should be a setting that you choose which are available, which are not. Now, also, when creating a roster outside the league that you want to bring in, you have no access to draft picks. And these trades have taken place where Diggs goes to the Bills for 4 picks. Well, I can't change those picks. I can just move over Diggs. And we have 32 good guys, so everybody changes those picks after. But it'd be nice to just be able to do it manually while it's really easy, just toggling through and putting the draft picks where they belong. So just give autonomy within the roster to really put things where they belong, how they belong, including dev traits and abilities, including which team the player plays for, and who gets those draft picks. Now about gameplay, like being inside the game in a franchise. A lot of people who choose franchises because they don't like the way that certain online features function, right? And they want to have simulation football that is more real to life than what you'd find online where people are going for it on 4th and 26 and then rage quitting. So within the game, we should have the ability to lock certain things in the play call screen so that people make the choices that have been voted on by the league. In our league, we have things in place that we found to be glitchy, and we try to remove that glitch and make it authentic. So for example, sometimes motioning back and forth will cause the computer defense to glitch out, right? Even if you're a user on the other side of the ball. So we have a rule in place where you are allowed 1 motion, right? We haven't set it up that you have to be static and still and then snap the ball. You can snap in motion, right? But we don't want guys going back and forth. So have it within the settings that 1 motion maximum. Our league does not have rules on hot routes. You do as many as you want. We don't have a rule on defensive adjustments. We don't have a rule on how many audibles you perform, right? But I could picture leagues where they would want to place a limit on that, and you should have the ability to do so. Great news is, in Madden 21 with play calling, because in a franchise league, that's often the issue. People running the same formation, people running the same plays. And with play cooling very likely coming, if it hasn't been absolutely confirmed yet, that's exciting. But I hope they give us the options as to how specific we want to be. Is it that you can't run the same play twice? What is the cooling period to running the same play? Just having it so that people are very satisfied with the play call diversity that you're going to get out of your league, and that everybody's on the same page, and the setting enforces it where you don't need to police it. The play is not even available to you if it's not within the parameters of your league. A very common belief, like within all franchises, is they're going to set up rules for no huddle, they're going to set up rules for 4th downs, they're going to set up rules for chewing the clock. Have those in the settings so that the chew clock takes place automatically when you're in those parameters, so that no huddle is unavailable when you're outside the parameters of no huddle. So that when you're 4th and 15, but you feel like going it while you have the lead, it's not available. The only things available to you are kick a field goal or kick a punt, whatever the case might be. So just make it that people don't even have the ability to break the rule through the settings. Obviously, every league is going to be different and decide on their rules differently. If you want to take it to the next level, for me, I'm never going to run a play when I have a lead and I have the ability to kneel it out, right? So depending on what your league votes and so on. You could even have it that fourth down, no timeouts, a certain amount of time left on the clock, the QB kneel is your only option, right? Not high up on the wish list. There's a lot of things we got to take care of first, but maybe that could be there. Now, this one's thinking a little bit outside the box, but you know how in a franchise you advance week by week by week at a set point? What if we had an open schedule, meaning your team has a 16-game schedule and there's never an advance. You simply play your game, it registers, it saves. When you're done all 16, you've done your job, and then it's up to the league as to when a lot of people are done 16 games, anybody behind, do we fair sim, do we force win, do we force loss? What do we do to those games to now advance to playoffs, right? So that might be a way of getting around people's schedules that you get in the games more efficiently. I'm sure there's some leagues where it's kind of a problem at the end of the season, the imbalance. And again, this is not essential, but maybe have it in the settings that you can realign divisions, right? So you can take certain players and just balance it out so that the league runs smoothly, so that you have good competition. Of course, there's the huge outcry for let us have coordinators, I really don't care about that, like what the name of the coordinator is and so on. Now, I do care about how the game plays and how the game runs, and I care about, as a coach, what I really want is if I've created a playbook, I want my formation subs to be based on my created playbook. So instead of it, like for me, I'm Minnesota, I run Zimmer's, like it's listed as his playbook. Maybe a quarter of my formations are actually out of the Minnesota Vikings playbook, so I can do those formations. But have it so that if people have custom playbooks, and I get it, some leagues, no custom playbooks, that's fine. But if you have a league where you're allowed custom playbooks, have it that your formation subs in your coaches menu align to your custom playbook. This point does not really belong in this video, so I'm going to be super fast with it. Has to do with creating playbooks. Now, of course, we can go create playbooks. We have a million plays we can choose from, formations, and we get a certain amount we could do. There used to be create your own playbook, and I mean create your own playbook. As in, you pick which positions step on the field, you pick where they line up in that formation, right? Now, in this era, with everybody sharing information and just developing these glitchy schemes, I get it. Probably never going to happen because people will learn to glitch that thing out. However, I'm just saying, it was a ton of fun. Being able to draw your own routes. This was on PS2, I think it was, and it's like, every formation you created from scratch. What positions, the spacing, where you wanted guys, who's on the line, who's off the line. It was beautiful. And you could create defensive playbooks to balance it, right? So would there be nano blitzes out the what? Probably, but I wish it was in the game. It'd be kind of fun. Give us the ability to have a draft lottery. Now, I'm not saying that I don't want the weaker teams to be compensated more heavily, but I don't necessarily think, and you can keep it 1, 2, 3, 4 based on how bad you did, but I think it'd be beneficial to most leagues to have it that tanking's not really a thing. So that you have, say, the 6 worst teams go into a lottery with the worst team having the highest probability. Maybe the worst team has a 50 to 60% chance of getting that first pick, and then it goes down from there and you have a lottery on that. But again, for some leagues, tanking is quite an issue. We got to season 10 in Madden 20 with our franchise. Players were OP, some teams were 99 overall, right? But you kind of fall in love with the rosters. I wish you would be able to save that roster and transfer it into a new franchise. And maybe with that roster, you have a fantasy draft or something along those lines, but have the ability for all those guys you drafted for 10 years to become part of a roster that you can save and create a new franchise with. So guys, those are my 21 things that I'd love to see in Madden 21, specifically for franchise and specifically when it's multi-users. So again, I'm fortunate to be part of 32 really good people, very reliable, solid gameplay. I couldn't ask for more on that front, right? But those are the 21 things I would like to see advance the league even further, make it a better experience for everybody. Now, there's other things on the list that are more of a pipe dream that I wish we could bring in, but they'd be harder to implement and so on. I really believe the 21 things we talked about here are very doable. It's just a matter of you put it in the game. I'm not asking you to fix the AI for blocking. I'm not asking for crazy things. These are toggle switches that make the game run. So 21 things is a lot of things. Again, a lot of them are valuable. Some more valuable than others. Let me know in the comments below, which feature would you like to see most for franchise mode in Madden 21? And if there were things that were not on the list that you found in your own franchise that you would love to see in Madden 21, leave a comment below, and really appreciate you guys for watching this video. If you've watched all the way to the end, please do like. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. And thanks so much, guys. Have a good day.